Topping our lineup, 2 states are considering banning football for younger children. We're getting into the debate that's spreading across the country. And glaciers are disappearing in front of our eyes. We're going along with a man who leads tours in Alaska, looking at how changing temperatures are changing his business. And more stores are adding next-day delivery ahead of the holidays. But this is raising questions about whether you can trust that your order will be correct. We're getting answers on that ahead on The Now.
Thank you, Usher. I'm Nicole Griffin, and thanks for joining us here on The Now Indy. The ability to speak is something many of us don't think twice about. But for those who are nonverbal or have other speech challenges, special tools help them on a daily basis. October is AAC Device Awareness Month, a way to draw attention to alternative devices available to people who need a different way to communicate. RTV6's Alyssa Donovan met a family who says this technology has changed their lives.
It's Liam Dance's favorite song, and one he requests very often to his therapist using his augmentative alternative communication device.
We call it his talker.
Liam is the oldest of 4 children.
With 4 kids, period, things are crazy. And then with Liam's added needs, or, you know, if something that one of the other kids is doing sets him off, it can be a challenge.
The smiley 8-year-old has autism, something his parents saw signs of when he was very young.
He just wasn't talking a lot, communicating. He made a lot of noise, just ain't nothing we could understand or figure out.
After learning he was on the spectrum, the Dance brought Liam to Cornerstone Autism Center. He started working with a speech-language pathologist and using an AAC device.
A lot of these devices have thousands of words programmed into it, so they're able to learn the system and then to be able to navigate and tell you exactly how they feel.
As Liam clicks a picture and a word, the device speaks back to him.
You know, any word that he's looking for is within 3 clicks.
In less than a year of using the AAC device, Liam's communication has significantly improved.
He actually is starting to use some more words, even talking and putting things together. We kind of feel like we get to know a little bit of his personality a little bit more because he kind of tells us what he likes.
Their world starts to open up because they're able to expressively tell you what they're thinking and what they're feeling.
The Dance are letting their son lead when it comes to development, but his device is giving them hope for more independence in his future. I'm Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
Thanks, Alyssa. Well, we've got 4 boxes on the screen, but really only 2 views. The reason for that, if you look from the IMS pagoda there in the bottom right of your screen, the Salesforce Tower shrouded in the low clouds. And we've had some rain from those clouds throughout the day, getting a little bit of a break in much of central Indiana, but the rain is going to build back in later tonight. 48 degrees for us right now. There's that northeast breeze at 7 miles per hour, so it's chilly, and actually that little bit of a breeze is making it feel like 45 in the Circle City. Now you get south of I-70 and we do find some temperatures in the 50s, but just 45 right now in Lafayette. There's a look at the satellite and radar, and you can see a few of those light rain showers going to continue to move on off to the north and east, but they will be back in here. Some scattered light rain showers by 9 and 11 o'clock with temperatures in the upper 40s. We'll look at your Halloween forecast in just a few minutes.
We kick off our Now newsfeed in D.C., where closed-door depositions are being held. House investigators are discussing the president's impeachment probe. They're questioning 2 State Department officials. The Federal Reserve cut rates this afternoon for the 3rd time this year. This comes as the Commerce Department issued a new report saying economic growth is slowing down in the country. The report says the slowdown isn't as much as expected, though. We're getting a boost from government spending, all of our spending, and exports. Today, a forensic pathologist hired by Jeffrey Epstein's brother is claiming some evidence suggests Epstein may have been strangled in jail. New York City's chief medical examiner is responding, saying she stands firmly behind her findings that ruled his death a suicide. Well, there's a new website aimed at helping people who are dealing with substance abuse issues. FindTreatment.gov just went live today. The site shows where people can find treatment options as well as the possible cost. This is the latest effort by the government to address the opioid crisis. And telehealth is a convenient, cheaper way to see a doctor or nurse practitioner when you're not feeling well. The problem is not enough people know about it. J.D. Power recently found only 10% of people have ever tried video chatting with a doctor. That's because they say there's not enough awareness. The majority of people who have tried it say it was because someone recommended it to them.
Even my friends and family have asked me, so what is that thing that you're doing about talking with a doctor on the phone? Is that something that's out there and available right now?
J.D. Power found more major healthcare companies are adopting telehealth into their plans, but part of the appeal is that even without insurance, a video chat with a doctor still runs less than $100.
Ultimately, if we can get a patient that, say, has just a cold or a flu to not go to an urgent care center or even, for that matter, an emergency room, emergency department, and instead use telehealth, not only is it more convenient, but it's more cost efficient for not only the health plan or the health system, but also the consumer.
Telehealth is also ideal for people in rural areas, but only about 25% know it's an option. J.D. Power found most who used it before were overwhelmingly satisfied with the experience. And on average, from start to finish, one telehealth visit took about 45 minutes. And another check of our lineup. How young is too young for kids to play tackle football? At least 2 states could now ban it for younger children. Ahead on the Now, we're getting into the debate that's spreading across the country.
Beautiful jewelry.
This is the Now Indy on RTV6. The city of Lawrence says its school system is now the first ever to utilize active shooter response technology, also known as ASRT. Several Lawrence city agencies are collaborating with Body Worn by Utility Inc. to install the system. ASRT provides real-time detection and location reporting of gunshots in order to reduce response times in active shooter events. The police chief says this is a huge tactical advantage, giving officers a roadmap they've never had before.
We've seen school shootings elsewhere in the country where it was a chaotic, tense, rapidly evolving situation, and officers simply didn't know where to go. This gives them at least an indication of where the last shot was fired.
Once a gunshot is detected, a real-time alert with geolocation is sent to first responders. The system is also able to distinguish gunshots from other loud noises. Usher.
Pediatricians are not doing enough to ask about gun safety at home. That's according to new research published in JAMA Pediatrics. Experts write that pediatric residents are more likely to ask about functional smoke alarms at home than about gun safety. One of the authors says doctors may not be receiving enough training about how to talk about it, and some doctors may have trouble talking about it after a mass shooting. Well, there are efforts across the country to ban young kids from playing tackle football right now. New York State is considering a bill that would ban children who are 12 years old and younger. The state of Massachusetts is looking at a bill that would ban tackle football until kids reach 8th grade. While there are debates about what the appropriate age is for football, medical experts say regardless of the exact age, children face a greater risk of developing CTE if they start off young.
It might look like a pillow fight when they're young, but because of the biomechanical differences of children, they have gigantic heads, little necks, heavy helmets that might be 10% of their body weight. Those small collisions actually send extraordinary energy to the brain. And then a study just came out today showing it takes less force to give a child a brain injury. In fact, about 60% as much force as it does an older person.
Children also don't have some of the same protections and safety measures that professional players have. For example, the NFL has 30 medical professionals standing by at every game to make sure athletes are safe. Some schools do have medical staff on hand, but it's difficult for them to afford it. Now, while experts may be on board with the changes, the bills are getting some pushback. Groups like USA Football and Pop Warner say there is not enough evidence to show that playing football at a young age is risky. Instead, some are proposing that players reduce the amount of contact they make during the game. More to get to in our lineup. The glaciers in Alaska are disappearing in front of our eyes. We're going along with a man who leads tours there, looking at how changing temperatures are changing his business. You're watching The Now.
TV bundle.
We start the Now news feed with a warning about the tools used for procedures like knee replacements or heart surgery. The FDA is alerting doctors that several plants that sterilize surgical equipment have been shut down. It says this could lead to years of shortages of these supplies. Well, a UK airport is trying to cut down on boarding time. It's working with the airline EasyJet to test out a new way to board. People will get on the plane from the back to the front, and those with a window seat will board first. And if you don't want your kids' music mixed with yours, Spotify has the answer. Today it launched a new music app for kids ages 3 to 10. It's starting in Ireland only, but it will make its way to the U.S. eventually. Now, scientists agree that spending time outdoors is good for you. Preschool that takes place all outside all the time is spreading to nearly every state in the country. I recently spent some time in one school at the forefront of teaching beyond the fence. Trudging through the forest on a brisk, drizzly day.
Gotta keep your underlayers tucked into your suit.
These preschoolers are trying to learn.
I'm not still. Feel this. It's not Mom.
Despite the elements.
We got to make sure our sleeves are tucked in, our shirts are tucked into our gear so that we stay nice and dry, so we can stay nice and cozy.
Tucked between two creeks and an old-growth cedar forest in Shelton, Washington, is the Squaxin Island Child Development Center.
All right, where are we? At the meadow.
Here in what is known as their Saplings and Cedars classroom.
Saplings!
Teachers focus on social and emotional development, self-regulation, and good old-fashioned tree climbing.
3 points of contact at all times.
And even when the weather becomes so challenging that you can't use traditional books or tools in the classroom, the teachers just adjust their curriculum for the environment.
Academically, there's really nothing different. Where the teachers inside are drawing on paper, we're drawing with sticks in the mud. Where the teachers inside are playing with slime that they made out of glue, we're playing with clay that we harvested from the creek.
More than 400 nature preschools and forest kindergarten programs are now operating in nearly every state.
I can climb down on myself.
But this past September, Squaxin became one of just 2 schools in Washington state and the nation now licensed for full-day outdoor preschool.
You're not stuck in a loud room that's 4 walls, 19 children and 3 teachers, and it's just that automatic connection, and you know, your heart's settled, your brain's settled.
For 5-year-old Rosalani, it's just that simple.
I like to get wet.
But she's also learned some important lessons.
Be careful with nature.
Good advice, and for state regulators, outdoor safety was the most important consideration when it came to licensing.
Knowing your climate and making sure that you have what you need to keep children safe. You know, there's that saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Squaxin's first class of 13 outdoor preschoolers graduated last year and have transitioned to brick-and-mortar kindergarten. Educators say they have high hopes for how they will fare.
Their ability to focus, their ability to self-regulate, their ability to engage and to work with groups has actually become much stronger, despite the fact that they're now in 4 walls as opposed to being out in the woods.
If the weather holds out in about 24 hours, kids will start ringing doorbells saying trick or treat. And are you ready for the onslaught of superheroes, Elsas, Annas, and ghosts? Do you have the candy they want? Consumer reporter John Matarese shows the embarrassing mistakes some people make so you don't waste your money.
Hopefully you're ready for Halloween by now. The decorations are up and you have a bucket filled with candy and you're ready to welcome all those young goblins to your front door. But there are still some important things not to do on the big night. No matter what you think of Halloween and trick-or-treating, no one wants to be looked at as the neighborhood wicked witch or Scrooge who ruins the holiday for the local kids. So Parade magazine says don't be cheap with candy, such as giving out a handful of candy corn or just one Tootsie Roll. Don't hand out toothbrushes or dental floss, even if you come from a family of dentists. Don't dress your little girl as Miley Cyrus. Actually, don't dress any young children as a sexy anything. And say no if your young one wants to be a lifelike Walking Dead zombie. Parade says that could lead to a lifetime of therapy. And from the Doesn't That Stink file, the worst thing you can do on Halloween, don't leave your front door light on if you're out of candy. If you have no treats, you could receive a trick and you'll say, doesn't that stink? So lock the front door and turn off the lights if you're not taking part in the Halloween festivities. Remember, this is not the night to teach kids lessons about sugar intake. Just hand out that candy and enjoy the moment so you don't waste your money. Working for you, I'm John Matarese, RTV6.
Words to the wise. Thank you, John. All right. Well, as we go through the next 24 hours, our weather is going to get kind of tricky here. You can see right now we've got some very low clouds over central Indiana. Let's brighten things up a little bit with some of that fall foliage and check out the view here in Brown County on the leaf cam. A lot of nice color out there. And over the next 24 hours, that wind's going to crank up and start to blow some of those leaves off the trees. Right now, it's 48 degrees. The wind is really pretty light. Temperatures in the lower 50s. In Bloomington, 43 tonight. We'll have those scattered showers returning. At least they will stay rain showers tonight into our Thursday morning. So as you head out the door, may want to allow a little extra time here as we'll have some of that rain around. Middle of the day, some dry air will work its way in. It stays cloudy and it will get breezy. And then look at this as we go through tomorrow evening. We are expecting some snow showers to mix in, possibly some light accumulations on areas like the flower beds, the mulch that's out there, and maybe even the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern out there, but this should not cause us any problems out there on the roadways. Just some of the first snowflakes of the season. Temperatures starting off in the 40s. We will slide back into the 30s by 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and that's when we'll start to see a little bit of that wintry mix moving on in. So as kids are heading out there to do a little bit of that trick-or-treating tomorrow night, temperatures in the 30s with those rain and snow showers, and winds are going to gust around 40 miles per hour. Pretty chilly here right on into the weekend with highs in the 40s. Usher?
Alaska is considered by many experts to be ground zero for climate change's impact on America. The shrinking glaciers there are a prime example of the warming temperatures. Chris Stewart takes us there to see the impact it's having.
Few places on Earth can match what Rick Brown sees every day.
The changes have been, to us, have been coming bang, bang, bang. It's the end of some things, but it's the beginning of other things.
He's been a guide in Alaska since the 90s.
Exit Glacier is one of the smallest glaciers in the Kenai Fjords National Park.
Iconic ice that's time may be running out.
It's got me concerned, because it is retreating at a rapid rate. Whether it is a natural phenomenon or a man-made phenomenon, it's happening.
So it's gone all the way from here all the way back to...
All the way out to there, yeah, and since 2005. Stand right here. And if this doesn't convince you that things are changing, then there's no use in me trying to even convince you.
On tours, Rick's answers to questions on climate change aren't political.
I tell them what I see. I don't know the reason why it's happening.
It's about what's become the reality here.
I don't know if it's human or naturally caused. I think it's both.
Winters come later, springs come earlier.
In the tiny town of Seward, climate change is often the topic of coffee shop conversation.
Because they had scientists up here.
Local historian Doug Capra was once a park ranger. He's documented Exit Glacier's retreat for years.
We're going into different historical periods. My concern is the denial, because I have great admiration for human ingenuity. Human beings have survived all kinds of things, so it's not a question of whether we can survive it, it's a question of how we're going to do it. It's a question of will.
So has climate change hurt your business?
I would say it's changed our business. I don't know if it's hurt it. We've adapted, and that's the key to surviving here is adapting.
And as the dates on the signs that mark where Exit Glacier used to be become more recent, it's clear the clock is ticking.
I would say probably, we're looking at 5 years.
The majority of Earth's fresh water is kept in ice caps and glaciers, meaning their retreat isn't just an Alaskan problem, and not one Rick says should be left to the future.
It's real, folks. The change is happening regardless of what's causing it. We need to get prepared to adapt to deal with the change.
Thanks, Chris. Well, e-cigarette maker Juul facing a new lawsuit. A former Juul executive claims the company sold contaminated and expired vaping pods. He says he was fired when he raised concerns. Juul calls the allegations meritless and says it investigated a manufacturing issue and determined the product met all applicable specifications. Finally, in our lineup, more stores are adding next-day delivery ahead of the holidays. But this is raising questions about whether you can trust that your order will be correct. We're getting answers on that next.